What's up, what's up, what's up? Hello out there in Facebook Live land. It's Rick on the Rocks and Dad Fantasy Football Extravaganza, Week 13. 13 is lean and mean.
All right, now you know what's special about Week 13, Rick, my son?
Playoffs.
This is the last week of the regular season.
Right.
Playoffs start next week, weeks 14 through 17 of the NFL regular season. So this week is it. For instance, I, as I've mentioned previously on this podcast, am involved in 5 different season-long teams. Every single one of those teams, I could get into the playoffs still, and I could not get into the playoffs still. I'm going to address that a little later.
Our team took a drumming.
I lost
this weekend.
Speaking of those 5 teams, about how erratic all this has been and how close it's been this year, is I lost all 5 of those games last week for the 5 teams I was involved in, or all 5 teams that I work with or own or whatever. I lost. It was horrible.
I was doing work and I started checking. I've got the fantasy football app for ESPN. I started checking our team, and all of a sudden, I'm like, wait, weren't we supposed to beat this guy? I was like, hold on. We were supposed to beat him by 30 points.
Most of my teams were supposed to win, and I got killed.
At that point, I looked, and he had Julio Jones, who at that time had 40 points.
Yeah.
It was still not done.
And ended up with 50.
Yeah.
And I played everybody in my leagues that had Julio, too, so.
At that point, it was ugly. It was really bad.
I lost a couple by 1 point, but I lost the others by 50,
Multiple
75, just
points.
Ridiculous. That's 2 weeks in a row I've lost at least one by 50, 60 points, which is sad. College football playoffs. One more week of that. Saturday are all the conference championships.
There were all kinds of shenanigans in college football.
Right now, the college rankings for the playoffs have Clemson number 1, Auburn number 2, Oklahoma 3, Wisconsin 4, and sitting right outside is Alabama and Georgia at 5 and 6, who are playing each other.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we shall see what happens. So right outside of that is Miami, who's playing Clemson. Auburn's playing Alabama. Auburn and Georgia are playing one another. And let me get that straight. So,
it's Auburn and Georgia.
Yeah. So starting Friday, you got number 21 Stanford playing number 11 USC. Saturday is number 20 Memphis at 10-1 versus undefeated Central Florida, number 15 at 11-0. You got TCU at 10-2 versus Oklahoma at 11-1. Saturday night is Georgia at 11-1 versus Auburn, 8-2. That's the SEC.
10-2.
10-2, yeah. ACC at 8 is Miami, number 2 against Clemson, number 3. So you got to figure one of them is going to get knocked out of the top 4, and then
Miami's not number 2, are they?
Pardon?
Miami's not number 2.
Why did I put number 2? I don't know. No, Miami's 7, something like that.
Yeah, I think they're 7.
Yeah, maybe that's a 7. That's just poorly.
Yes.
A poorly drawn 7, perhaps. That's what it is. So it's my mistake. Versus Clemson, number 1. Well, I've got them all wrong. Well, forget it. And finally, at 9 o'clock, Ohio State versus Wisconsin. So we'll see. And like I said, this is the final week of the regular season fantasy playoffs. So I'm going to start out with story time because I have, believe it or not, I have a double header. Yeah, 2 story times.
Gather round, children.
Yeah, they do Come on, we need you close up by the computer here to watch this, up by the fireside. The first one is Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Yeah. I'm not going into all the details on these because I'm just making a point. I'm not doing fairy tales here. There's an evil queen involved here, okay? And the evil queen works it out so that Snow White eats half of an apple that's poisoned, and the evil queen eats a half of the apple it's not, and puts Snow White into suspended animation. Believe it or not. Remember, this is a fairy tale. She ends up in this glass casket. All right. And
so appropriate for children.
Yeah, I know. It's incredible looking at this thing. So and well, wait till I get to the Three Little Pigs. You'll really like that one. And but I'm not doing Three Little Pigs this week. I'm actually doing Princess Bride, the movie. But anyway, her Prince Charming comes along, gazes upon her, depending on what story that's in the original, gazes on her. She comes to life and lives happily ever after as the queen and gets married and everything. Now he's saying, well, we could almost say, well, let's not say yet what she was, all right? But she had all the appearances of being dead.
Right.
Yeah, which should give you a clue where I'm going. Because next we're doing Princess Bride, the classic movie with Gary Elwes and
Carrie Elwes.
Yeah.
Who was it? Billy Crystal?
Robin Wright, Billy Crystal, all kinds of great people, and Kevin Kline. When Carrie Elwes is put in the torture chamber and everything, and he's left for dead, and Andre the Giant takes him to Magic Max, played by Billy Crystal, okay? And this guy is called the Miracle Man, right? They take him to the Miracle Man, and they say, oh, he's dead, da-da-da-da-da. Billy Crystal looks at him and it says, well, that's what you know. That shows you. He's just mostly dead. And he gives him this pill, and he goes off, and as they're going off, his wife says something to him, and she says, you think it'll work? And he said, it'll take a miracle. Yeah. Well, that's how my 5 fantasy teams are this week. They're mostly dead. All right. And in some cases, it's going to take a miracle. But the truth of the matter is, Snow White ended up in really good shape after she was mostly dead. All right. Carrie Elwes goes, saves Princess Buttercup, and rides off into the sunset with her with the other guys after being mostly dead. So that's what we're dealing with. Okay. If you've got a shot, you've got a shot. So you got to take it. And if you don't make it into the championship round, which is usually the top 4 teams, it's usually the winner of each division, usually 2 divisions in a 10-team league, and then the next 2 highest teams. So we'll see. That's it.
All right.
But I'm mostly dead in most of my leagues. Even though I have only one team that's 6-6, the rest of them all have real good winning records, including the team that Rick and I have.
Yeah.
So
we'll be all right.
Yeah. So we'll see. All you can do is run them out there and play the game. So what we need for this week is some ads. Oh, by the way, there are some games coming up. Last week's games were a little. There wasn't much. It was a couple big upsets. Kansas City got upset by Buffalo.
Thanksgiving sucked. But we talked about that. Actually, the Detroit Minnesota game wasn't that bad.
No.
It was all downhill from there.
The Chargers just stomped Dallas on Thanksgiving. Also, and that Washington-New York Giants game couldn't have been worse. I'll address the Giants in a moment. The Rams-New Orleans game, a lot of people thought that, in fact, New Orleans was actually favored, even though the game was being played in Los Angeles. The Rams keep chugging along. Came back and won that game. So this week, tonight's game is Washington at Dallas. The game means something for Washington. I don't know how much, but it just depends.
Means nothing for
Sunday, there's Minnesota-Atlanta, which is a very important game. Minnesota's won 7 in a row.
Big game.
Atlanta's 7-4.
San Francisco-Chicago, only because Chicago might be able to win one more game.
Well, let's not go crazy.
I said maybe.
You have New England-Buffalo. New England's won 7 in a row. Yep. Buffalo's still 6-5. Kansas City 6-5. And they're fast falling out of it.
My 2 games that I am kind of what I've got highlighted, the Carolina-New Orleans game.
Both teams 8-3. Carolina's won 4 in a row.
The Philadelphia-Seattle game, because Philly wins that game, which I'm pretty sure they're going to. I think that's the nail in Seattle's coffin. That's the final one.
Could be. Seattle's still 7-4. Philadelphia's won 9 in a row and is 10-1. And then the Monday night game, Pittsburgh, which has won 6 in a row, is 9-2, but they're playing on the road and they're awful.
Philadelphia's only losses come on the road as well.
Yeah,
and they will be at Seattle.
So we'll see. I'm a big proponent of having players on your team from winning teams, and also right now teams that are on the rise. And let's look at quarterbacks this week.
I was noticing that. I
want to comment on two
guys you've been talking about, and here they are: Josh McCown and Case Keenum.
Yeah, actually, once again this week, I went to our website, to our fantasy team.
You're shaking the camera. Stop.
And I'm juggling a table. Sorry. I went to the waiver wire on our teams. And lo and behold, there were Josh McCown and Case Keenum, both still available. I have both of them in other leagues.
Both averaging over 20 points in fantasy.
Yeah, last week, Case Keenum had 27.3 points. McGowan had 25 last week. They're both scheduled for, or predicted, or whatever, for 15 points, fantasy points this week. Phillip Rivers had a real good week last week, almost 29 fantasy points. He's predicted for over 16 points this week. Even Tyrod Taylor, the quarterback for Buffalo. Now, bear in mind, they're playing the New York Giants, which are a total dumpster fire. And he's projected to get 17.8 points. Yep. Our top pick of last week that we gave you was Case Keenum, the quarterback from Minnesota. And I'd say 27.3 points is
not shabby.
Not bad. One other pick.
Better than our quarterback.
Blake Bortles, the Indianapolis Colts quarterback, had 22 points last week and is scheduled for 15 this week. Right. So now, 2 other quarterbacks. Any of you that are paying any attention at all, and I don't know if this actually applies to anyone, I don't know if anyone has Eli Manning on their team, the Giants quarterback. It's hard to imagine.
You never know.
So that's one of the big things. Don't even think about Geno Smith.
Oh God, no.
Geno was awful when he played with the Jets. I just heard one of the
Geno makes a mean cheesesteak, but
one of the forecasters today talking about how his prediction is that Geno won't even finish the game. But then the question is, I also saw some video this morning of Eli running the taxi team, the scrub team. So I don't even know who their backup's going to be for this game. So
shame on the New York Giants for the way they're treating him.
That was horrible.
Shame.
The other is that the 49ers have announced that a good time to start Jimmy Garoppolo, the backup quarterback they acquired a few weeks ago from the New England Patriots. People have been wondering when they might start him, and I know some people that have taken Garoppolo off the waiver wire and stashed him on their roster. And lo and behold, guess who he plays against? Our beloved Bears. I don't know whether as bad. Remember, he does quarterback for the 49ers now, and they're not good. So this is going to be a real lousy ball game, and
it's going to be awesome.
Yeah,
it's the game of the week. I'm telling you, calling it right now.
Yeah, well, you call it all you like, but boy, is it going to be horrible.
I'm still watching it.
Yeah, of course. But I wouldn't touch Garoppolo this week. I'd keep him on your bench, see how he does, and if it doesn't make any difference for you, if you've already won your league or know you're getting a playoff spot, you want to try him, have at it. I have no idea how he'll do.
Go crazy.
But I mean, he could do worse than play the Bears. A lot worse. Just about any team in the league. So, all right, running backs. Our time is going here. One thing, Devontae Freeman, the running back for Atlanta, one of our favorite players, Florida State guy, both running the ball and catching it out of the backfield. He's been in concussion protocol for several weeks and hasn't played. They've cleared him from that, but there's a lot of speculation. I've got him on 2 different teams. I've been holding on to him, but I'm not going to play him this week. I don't think it's a good risk, and I need someone that I know is going to play a full load. And it's hard to imagine they would stick Devontae out there right away with a whole lot, and particularly as well as Tevin Coleman, their other running back's been doing. So it's up to you. It's your team. If you got Freeman, why have at it? But after multiple weeks of concussion protocol, and they just took him off either this morning or last night, it's hard to imagine that it's not that he doesn't know the plays or that he couldn't play if he was physically able, but you really have to wonder. These concussion things are really dragging out now. So it's getting bad. Some other running backs.
I see you have Matt Forte.
I do. Matt Forte has been hurt off and on for the last couple of years.
Always hurt. Former
Bear running back and one of the best we've ever had there. And whenever he plays for the Jets, he plays really well. But once again, he's been out for so long, you got to wonder how much they're going to use him. On our league, they're forecasting him for 11.3 points. It's against Kansas City. Kansas City's on the road, and where they have not played well. Kansas City's lost 3 in a row.
Oh, yeah.
So this might be a good time to stick him in there, particularly if you have a good running back to go with him, just in case, or put him in your flex spot. So just depending on what's available. So that might be a good one. Let's see what else we got here. And my little
you got some wide receivers you want to talk about?
Well,
you've been talking about this guy.
Yeah, let me mention a couple other running backs real quick. One of them I like, in fact, I picked him up on 2 different teams, is Jamal Williams, the running back for Green Bay. Green Bay's running backs are all hurt, Ty Montgomery and everybody else that they've tried. This guy had almost 30 fantasy points last week. And he's playing Tampa Bay. All right.
Go Bucks.
Our hometown team here that's going to try to run Jameis out there. Speaking of Jameis, some of you may have him on your roster, although I can't imagine why you'd be holding on to him after all this. They're going to try to play him this week. But that team is so bad right now that I think they're risking some more injuries for Jameis. I don't think he's totally well. He's got a bad shoulder. First time he gets dumped on that shoulder again, it's his throwing shoulder. He'll be out for the rest of the season, so I wouldn't touch him. But Jamal Williams, as I was saying, I think is a real good pickup. They're projecting he'll get
Tampa will be getting a new coach anyway.
Yeah, get 18 fantasy points this week. So some others you might want to look at are Isaiah Crowell. For Cleveland, the running back, guy by the name of Eckler, who plays for the Chargers, has been doing pretty well. And the other one who's done well, although it's hard to know who Bill Belichick, the Patriots coach, is going to use. But the last couple of weeks, they've used Rex Burkhead as their primary running back, and he's piling up some points. So,
yeah, but he could sit the whole game. You never know. It's so damn frustrating.
So that's running backs. It's kind of slim pickings what I saw on the waiver wire for wide receivers, and that's because so many of them have been hurt. And most people, like myself, try to use the 2 wide receivers plus put a wide receiver in the flex spot. So most people have 4 or 5 wide receivers on their roster, so not a whole lot of them come up. There were a couple on the waiver wire that I looked at today. Who were you pointing at? Oh,
Cooper Kupp.
Cooper Kupp, who was
who we talked about before.
We've been talking about him every week. He plays for the Rams. Had another good week this past week, 8 receptions for 116 yards. Martavis Bryant is starting to get some catches, although Antonio Brown is just going off as their number 1 receiver. He may be the top receiver in the league right now. Josh Doctson, the Washington running back, he'll be playing tonight.
I mean, wide receiver.
Would be a good pickup. Yeah, running wide receiver. Randall Cobb, wide receiver for Green Bay, going against Tampa Bay's terrible secondary. It's really bad. Sammy Watkins, had 18 fantasy points last week for the Rams, another Ram player. Marquise Lee.
Like that team. They're fun to watch.
Yeah, Marquise Lee should have a real good week for Jacksonville going against Indianapolis, who is another terrible team.
All right, then we got...
All right, we got some tight ends.
I don't know that I recognize a name on that list.
Well, I like Hunter Henry, the Chargers tight end. Phillip Rivers has been using him a lot lately. He got over 18 fantasy points last week. And they're playing Cleveland this week. All right?
Oh, Browns.
So I think he would be a good pickup. There's also another hyphenated name guy. If you don't like Austin Seferian-Jenkins for the Jets, who has turned out to be not so good, this one would be Ricky Seals-Jones, who plays for Arizona. And he's had 3 touchdowns in the last 2 games. He would be a good one. And Austin Hooper, the tight end for Atlanta, is not spectacular, but he's a good solid pickup. So that might be one that.
Can't believe I'm saying this. I'm actually rooting for Minnesota in that game.
Yeah. You have anything over there on your?
I was actually my pick of the week. You actually have written down. My pick of the week was actually a defense, and it was the Chargers defense.
My pick of the week last week was one of them was the Chargers, and I believe it or not,
and I didn't realize this. Sorry, go ahead. I've had 3 games with at least 18 points, which I did not know. And this is their remaining schedule. Now, keep in mind, this is a really, really good team. They're top of their division right now. The remainder of their schedule, the Browns, Redskins, Chiefs, Jets, and Raiders.
Yeah, and that's one thing I look at.
You might not need to leave. You might just, if you grab them as your defense, you might be able to just go ahead and leave them for the rest of the year.
And that's a good point. Every player that I've picked up this week, no matter what team he's been on, I've looked at his schedule, his upcoming schedule.
Yeah.
On the ESPN leagues, you just click up at the top where it says schedule, and instead of statistics, it'll show you their schedule for the.
Because if they've already scored 18 points 3 times, I guarantee you that with that group of teams that they're playing, there's at least one more or maybe 2 18-point games.
Yeah, they actually scored 24 points 2 weeks ago. Last week they scored 18.
They're Shaka. What's up, Shaka?
Yeah, so.
Yeah. So
and this week they're playing Cleveland, which is a no-brainer.
Yeah. It's gonna. Yeah.
I actually went by, as I was starting to say, that I actually went back through my fantasy teams, and there's Chaka.
Yeah.
Hey, Chaka.
We're waiting for him to show up.
Yeah. We're almost done, Chaka. Where you been?
Dad's got a hot date. He's got to be somewhere at 3.
Yeah, got to go.
We're glad you showed up, though.
Yeah. But anyway, I went back through and actually found the Chargers on one of my leagues. I guess somebody had dropped them or something because they weren't there last week, or I would have grabbed them because
Big mistake.
I think I got him on. I think I got the Chargers on 2 of my 5 teams last year, and then I used them in daily fantasy over the weekend. It was on every daily fantasy entries last week. Why I used the Chargers and was not sorry. Obviously, it was just, they're hot right now, and
aren't they on our team?
And when a defense is playing like that, well, you just got to ride them, or any player for that matter. So, looking at the schedules is very important to what you're doing. Chaka, do you have any comments for this week? We've pretty much covered everybody.
And actually, I said at the top of the show, I love saying it sounds super. At the top of the show, that the best game of Thanksgiving ended up being the Minnesota-Detroit game. Was really not a bad game.
Yeah.
But it was all downhill from there. But that game was a fun game to watch. Not a bad game at all.
No, Case Keenum does a real good job of taking care of the football.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little disappointed because I have him on a couple of teams, and McKinnon, the running back, they just didn't give him much of an opportunity. But Adam Thielen has been
my man. Adam Thielen
has been one of our Rick and my top point producers for the whole season.
Guy's been money.
Rick jumped on him early. And
I saw him play one game, and I was like, "Can we get that guy?"
Yeah.
And the next week, nobody had him.
Yeah.
And we went and picked him up, and he's been in. And
since
ever
then,
since.
I suspect he. In fact, I think I saw a statistic where he's the top fantasy wide receiver, and has overall for the whole season so far.
The guy's great to watch, an exciting player to watch.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm saying that.
He barely misses the ball. If it's anywhere near him, he's going to catch it.
Unfortunately, we're coming to the end of the show. We're not going to have an extended show like we did last week.
No.
But I did want to say a little. I don't do it a lot on this format because we kind of like to keep the football. But some exciting with, like, if you don't know, I'm a blogger. That's what I do. I have an online magazine called rickontherocks.com, and I'm doing this really cool giveaway where you could win tickets to the big game. I'm not allowed to say it because they'll sue the shit out of me. But the big game on February 4th.
Yeah.
So if you know what we talk about on this Facebook Live show, the big game on February 4th, you could win tickets, hotel stay, the whole kit caboodle. So check out rickontherocks.com about how to enter it. And I wrote a cool little story too with it. So.
And while you're there, take a look at his the new addition to their family.
It's actually not on there. If you go down a couple of notches from this video,
yeah,
there's the video with the
Oh, is that on here?
I did with my a group of guys that I love working with, the Life of Dad crew, who have become really good friends of mine. And actually, I think we're the first people that ever gave me a job in this business.
Yeah.
Love working with them. So yeah, everybody have a wonderful rest of the week and weekend. Stay safe.
Good luck making the playoffs. I've got to go 5 for 5 this week.
Shaka, thanks for showing up.
Yeah, Shaka, in case you didn't hear or you weren't on there, I went 0 for 5 last week on my weekly fantasy team. So I'm really
a big Cerro.
Really in need of a 5-0. I could probably make the playoffs in all 5 leagues if I go 5-0, but
he's literally losing sleep over this. I'm not lying.
I'm not used to this.
I know him.
I'm used to cruising into the playoffs and having a good shot at it. And this year, who knows?
Yeah, he's like, ouch. Yeah, you're damn right.
You aren't kidding.
All right, man. Shaka, we'll see you hopefully next week. I think we're going to try to do it at Wednesday at 2:00 next week.
Right.
My wife will be out of town. Maybe we should Tuesday. It might be even more fun. We can get naked around here.
No.
I'll be here Tuesday.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Wednesday.
We'll 2:00
Wednesday at
Eastern
2:00.
Standard Time. All right.
Yeah.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.